In this video, we're going to walk through a little assignment together. In this assignment, I have given you what we call skeleton code. So skeleton code is pretty much, you're going to be seeing that a lot in assignments that I hand to you later. Skeleton code is kind of what it sounds like. It's the skeleton of a program. So that means it kind of has the form of what your program is going to look like, but it doesn't have all the meat. It doesn't have the body on it yet. And you need to fill it out to give it that substance, give it that meat and body. So here, my skeleton code already has the class name for you, already put the main method in there for you, and then it has some comments that it's telling you what to do. And that's what it's going to look like a lot with skeleton code. There'll be some of the program already written in, and then a bunch of comments that say, hey, this is what I want you to do. Okay, so the first thing that I have after the main method is this first comment here. It says, use a comment to describe what is happening in the line below. And then in the line below, I have int var1 and then a semicolon and a little place for you to answer what's happening there. So take a moment to just, pause the video and answer what you have there. Okay, so on this line, it says int var1. What's happening here is we are declaring, or that means creating, an integer variable named var1. And so that's exactly what's happening there. So you just had to describe what was happening in this line. They're creating an integer variable named var1. So let's now move on to this next part. This next comment says, on the next 3 lines, declare, which by the way means create, 3 integer variables. So take a moment to just try to declare 3 of your own integer variables. So unpausing the video, let's take a look. I'm going to make an integer and I'll name it maybe var2 because I already have a variable 1 up here. And on the next line, I'll make another integer variable called var3. Ooh, don't forget that semicolon. And finally, I'm going to make an integer variable var4. These names can be whatever you want them to be, right? As long as they don't have any weird wingy-dingy symbols in them. So on the next 3 lines, I'm going to create 3 integer variables, and that's just what I did. I created 3 different integer variables on the next 3 lines. All right, let's take a look at the next thing that this is telling you to do. It says to initialize 2 of those variables with a whole number value. So whole number, by the way, means 1, 2, 57, any whole number, no decimals. And initialize, by the way, just means set a value for the first time. Maybe I'll write that in its own comment so I don't go off the screen here. Initialize means to set a variable's value for the first time. Okay, so I'm going to initialize 2 of those variables with a whole number. So I'm going to say, all right, variable 2 is equal to 7. That's initializing my variable. I'm giving it a value of 7 right now. And then next, I'm going to maybe say variable 3 is equal to 12. Why not? And that's what I did, right? Initialize 2 of those variables with a whole number value. I just initialized variable 2, that's the first one, and then I initialized variable 3, that's the second one. All right, let's take a look at the next thing. It says, set the value of the final variable to the sum of the 2 other variables. So I've set variable 2 and 3 to 7 and 12 respectively, and it just wants me to set the value of the final variable to the sum of the 2 other variables. Well, then I can just say variable 4 is equal to sum. By the way, that means I need to add them. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Take a moment, see if you can do that. Pause the video before I give you the answer. All right, so unpausing the video now. We've got variable 4 is equal to the sum of the 2 other variables. Well, my 2 other variables are var2 and var3. So let me just add them. Variable 4 is equal to var2 plus var3, and then a semicolon. So what this is doing is on the right side, it does the math. And once it finishes with that math, it's going to put it into my left side of my equals sign. So variable 2 was 7, variable 3 was 12. It'll add those up to get 19. And variable 4 should be holding on to the value of 19. And then finally, my last part of my skeleton code tells you to print out the values of all 3 of these variables. I'm kind of ignoring this first variable because it was already made for you. Okay, so take a moment, try to print out those values. We'll do it, and then we'll try to compile this code. Unpausing the video now, let's take a look. Variable, hold on, what do I need to do? Let me see, print out the values of all 3 variables. Well, to print things out, I know I need to have a system.out.println statement, and I want to print the values of these 3 variables. So to print the value, I don't put it in quotes. So I'll print the variable 2 value. I will system.out.println var3. And finally, I'll do system.out.println var4. And at this point, I'll hit Control S to save my program. Maybe I'll get rid of this white space right here so it doesn't look gross. And I'll go back to my compiler, which you can find, on Classrooms. And I will hold Control A to select all of it, hold Control, then hit C to copy, Control V to paste it here. And let's compile and execute to see if my program runs. So it says successfully compiled, looks good. And it printed out the values 7, 12, and 19, which is exactly what I put in. I set variable 2 to 7. So when I print out variable 2, it gave me 7. I set variable 3 to 12. So when I printed out variable 3, it should have given me 12, which it did. And then finally, I set variable 4 equal to the sum of those 2 other variables. So I said variable 2, which is 7, plus variable 3, which is 12. 7 plus 12 gets me 19. Variable 4 should be printing out 19. And so when I print that out, it does indeed print out 19. If you got that working, 100% on this assignment.